Hello and welcome to the third episode of the show. I'm your host, Finn Swan, and this is the Quarantine Collection. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a few of my favourite songs, new and old, and hopefully you can enjoy them with me. So a quick update on the show. This episode of the show is going to be coming out a day late. Normally I would be like to getting this out on Friday, but I've been a bit lazy. Not really had any excuses for that. I've been doing nothing for the past 3 or maybe more weeks. I've sort of lost track of time. But coming back to the updates, I've got a pop filter. So hopefully that will be an improvement on the audio from my behalf. So I can say stuff like pop and it's not too annoying for you to listen to. Not rupturing any eardrums. Again, like every other show, I'm just going to be having a few songs that I've enjoyed listening to in the past and more recently, a few that you've definitely heard before and maybe a few that you've not and you might quite enjoy. I don't know if this is happening with everyone, but I've found myself over the past few days especially getting really fixated on stuff that I've not even really thought about before, not in a weird way, but today I've just been looking up how to harvest potatoes and all stuff like this. I've just been trying to germinate carrots and avocados, so that's what I've been doing with my day. I don't know, I'll probably cut this bit out maybe. So there you go, that's a little insight into my life there. So nonetheless, let's get things going. What better to get things rolling with a bit of rock and roll. So what I'm going to be playing for you first here is a track from the Rolling Stones and their 1969 Let It Bleed album. I think this is the first Rolling Stones track that I heard, or I definitely remembered hearing and like really liking. So this is the opening track to that album that I'm going to be playing for you here, and I'll just quit talking and play it for you now. That track is Gimme Shelter. and that was Give Me Shelter by the Rolling Stones. Just such a badass song, featuring Mary Clayton there with those powerful vocals. There's a bit in the song, I think it's about 3 minutes in, where Mary's really just giving it her all, and you hear her voice crack, and just in the background, and if you're listening, you can hear, I think it's Mick Jagger, just giving a little whoa, a little Easter egg in the track there, kind of in the same way of from the Police track, Roxanne at the start. Obviously the notorious noise of Sting sitting down on the piano and then laughing about it, and then just leaving that in the recording. Yeah, just such a badass track. Coming back to when I first heard that, I believe it was the song which was used for the first DLC trailer of the Black Ops 1 game. So for whatever the first DLC was, Black Ops 1 back in 2010 or 2011, they used that song, Give Me Shelter, for the trailer, and a 10-year-old me thinking it was the coolest thing. Anyway, yeah, that was Give Me Shelter. Another bit of trivia about that track, apparently Mary Clayton got a last minute phone call from the Rolling Stones to come and do the vocals for that track, just the last minute in a late night recording. So if she had never picked up the phone that night, who knows if we ever would have heard that amazing song. The next track that I'm going to be playing for you is from The Smiths. Last episode I did say I was going to be playing a track from these guys, but I just never got around to it, so it's a bit overdue. This track is from their 1986 album, The Queen Is Dead. Personally my favourite of The Smiths album. Got some really great tracks on it, some of their biggest tracks. There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others, and obviously The Queen Is Dead. So give that album a listen if you've not heard it. Really, really original at the time. So the track that I'm going to be playing for you from that album is Big Mouth Strikes Again, and here it is now.
Sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said I'd like to mash every tooth in your head. Oh, sweetness, sweetness, I was only joking when I said by rights you should be bludgeoned in your bed. And now I know how Joan of Arc felt. Now I know how Joan of Arc felt. As the flames rose to her Roman nose and her Walkman started to melt.
And that was Big Mouth Strikes Again from The Smiths. and their 1986 The Queen Is Dead album. Many consider the Smiths as one of the top indie bands of all time. Without a doubt, the Smiths, along with other bands like the Stone Roses, really started the push to what would become the British invasion in the 90s, with bands like Blur and Oasis, Pulp, Happy Mondays. What I've always thought about the Smiths, and more particularly Johnny Marr, is when people are always talking about the best guitarist of all time, there's normally people like Jimi Hendrix, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, as rightfully they should be. I've always thought that Johnny Marr has just been a really excellent guitarist. You just listen to those Smiths songs and you can really hear such a unique and amazing way that he plays a guitar on tracks like This Charming Man. See, Johnny Marr has done a lot of his own solo work, also been in a few other bands like Modest Mouse. His time with the Smiths is really where he's shone the most. This next track that I'm going to be playing for you is by an artist who I've only just come across a couple of weeks ago. He's recently released a new album at the start of March of this year. That's where I first heard him, and I just thought it's really interesting music that he was making. So I've been listening to his stuff over the last couple of days. Really quite peculiar songs, but something nice to just listen to and close your eyes and lie back. The song I'm going to be playing for you isn't from that album. Just so you know, the album that came out a few weeks ago, which I was talking about, is called 16 Oceans, and the artist is Fortet. That's who I'm talking about now. The song that I'm going to be playing for you is from Fortet's 2017 album, New Energy, and the track is actually called 2017 itself. After you listen to this, maybe go and check him out if you haven't heard of him before. If you like it, he's an English musician. I'm surprised I've not heard of him before. He's been putting out albums since the early 2000s. His first album was out in 2001, and it's basically all remixes and mashing together of different tracks. It's really interesting stuff. I'll let you have a listen. This is 2017 by Fortet. That was 2017 by Fortet from his album New Energy. Also be sure to check out his newest release, 16 Oceans. Hopefully I'll be able to play some stuff from that coming up on future shows. That's just one of those songs where I don't really know why I like it, but I just know I do. Such an interesting track, like a lot of his music really. I'll definitely be sure to be listening to more of his stuff over the next few weeks. There's not a lot I know about this artist. It's also kind of fun for me just trying to do a bit more research into them and see what they've been making, if they've done any other stuff. Normally in this part of the show I play a bit of hip hop for you, which I guess I'm kind of doing in a way, but I'm bending the rules a little bit. The next track I'm going to play for you is from the Beastie Boys. This track is from their 1992 Check Your Head album. Before the Beastie Boys really got into hip hop, they were sort of a hardcore punk band, which they get a lot of criticism for that, and sort of appropriating hip hop in a time where obviously hip hop came from the black community in places like New York and then later in the West Coast in LA. A lot of people saying that they appropriated that, but in a lot of ways the Beastie Boys music has always been so experimental. They've always changed it up. That first album of theirs, License to Ill from 1986, got one of my favourite Beastie Boys tracks on it, which happens to be the first track on the album, which is Rhymin' and Stealin'. I can't remember the amount now, but there's a ridiculous amount of samples on that whole album. But that Rhymin' and Stealin' track, it's got a sample from Led Zeppelin and When the Levee Break. Say what you like about them, they just know how to make a great track. Back to the song that I'm going to be playing for you now. This one is definitely the Beastie Boys going back into that hardcore punk roots of theirs, still mixing in a bit of, I guess it's rap rock. But here we go, this is a rebellious one for you. This is Gratitude by the Beastie Boys. That was Gratitude from the Beastie Boys, and that's the fourth track on their Check Your Head 1992 album. I didn't really realise before the drum beat in that is a bit funky, nice groove to it, Mike D on the drums. I think there's a bit of bongos in there as well. Like I was saying before, the Beastie Boys were sort of criticised for their so-called appropriation of hip-hop, and really it was a bit of a risk for them at the time. There was no white rappers doing hip-hop. They were already a pretty well-established punk band. Making the jump to hip-hop was really a big risk for them, which they made throughout their career, always changing changing the sound up and the style from album to album. I don't know what it is about the Beastie Boys. They just seem like they would be the least cool people, but somehow they just pull it off. Also having some of the best music videos of all time, you'd have to say, with Spike Jonze's 70s style pop show music video for their track Sabotage, and more recently with their music video for the song Make Some Noise from their 2011 Hot Sauce Committee Part 2 album. I recommend giving that one a watch. Filled with cameos of some really big actors. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to be making any music from now on. Back in 2012, MCA passed away. I'm not sure what Mike D and Ad Rock are up to these days, but I'm sure a lot of good stuff. The next track I'm going to be playing for you will be the final song of this episode. It's the first track that I heard from this band just after this single was released back in 2018. The band is called Broken Bells. They just make some really nice music. Made up of two people, James Mercer and Brian Burton. I believe Burton has worked with Beck on some of his music, which reminds me I'd have to play some Beck on the show at some point in the future. But yeah, I had not heard these guys up until that single release, the track that I'm going to be playing for you, Shelter, back in 2018. They've only got a couple of albums out. Their first self-titled one from 2010, Broken Bells, and then in 2014 releasing After the Disco. But they've put out a fair few singles since then, so I'm sure they'll be putting an album together at some point. They're probably both busy working on their own projects as well. So I'll just leave it at this. I hope you had a good time listening. I hope you've had a nice relaxing week, not getting too stressed out by everything that's going on. I've been getting out doing a bit of cycling. It's been nice. It's been pretty nice. I've found myself doing a bit more, I think, now that I'm not supposed to be, which is a funny old thing, isn't it? A bit of like reverse psychology going on there. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the listen and that you all have a good week or month or year or whatever you're doing in what period of time. So here it is. This is Shelter by Broken Bells.
To untie your tongue, girl. I want your love to set me right. I got myself in a world of trouble, and I can't run, so I guess I'll fight for your love. The one thing I return to, holding so tight, I'll put it to you now for your consideration.